In this video, I'm going to make the case that Democrats, liberals, progressives, leftists, democratic socialists, whatever they're calling themselves these days, are actually dyed-in-the-wool communists. The fundamental doctrine of communism is from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. And that essentially means that you work as hard as you possibly can while getting paid the bare minimum to survive. So when communism began to take hold, the immediate question became, who gets to decide what a man's abilities and needs are? If each person were left to decide his own abilities, then he might decide that he can only work 15 minutes a month. If each individual were left to decide what his own needs are, he could decide that he wants an island in South Polynesia and 10 mansions and a garage full of Lamborghinis. Clearly, that would be a disaster. Enter the intellectual elites, the people who somehow know what you should do with the finite breaths that you have on this earth. They know when you've earned enough money, when your needs have been met, and when it's time for you to start spending your money on other people. After all, if a man is only able to work a half an hour a week, that's all that would be expected of him under communism, from each according to his ability. But if he had a 7-member household, his needs would clearly outweigh his ability to satisfy them. See, capitalism is a conundrum for communists. Capitalism provides people with the value they need to survive, but also requires them to earn it. According to the American ideal, for an economic system to be moral, individual freedom ought to be a central component of a working economy. One is free to work or not to work, and part of freedom is accepting and sometimes suffering the consequences of your actions and your inactions. So what did the communists do to one-up capitalism? They needed to justify their noble doctrine, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. They needed to justify it. So they created these unreasonable, utopian goals. We can create a perfect system of society that allows everyone to have everything for free. In order to implement these goals, they fabricated positive rights. Negative rights require others to abstain from interfering with your actions. The right to free speech, right to bear arms, right to refuse service, right to associate or not to associate. Negative rights are meant to keep people from infringing on your personal liberties. Positive rights, on the other hand, require others to provide you with either a good or a service. The right to health care, right to education, right to a job, right to housing. Communism is based on positive rights, and communists baked those rights into the 1936 Constitution of the USSR. Article 118, citizens of the USSR have a right to work. Article 119, annual vacations with full pay. Article 120, free medical services. Article 121, free education. Article 122, equal rights for women. That sounds great, right? But when you read a little bit further, equal rights to a communist means pre-maternity and maternity leave with full pay. So basically a bunch of goodies. Here's a familiar one. Communists believe that hate speech should be punishable by law. In Article 125, in, and only in, conformity with the interests of the working people, and only in order to strengthen the socialist system, the citizens of the USSR are guaranteed by law freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, including the right to hold mass meetings. In other words, you are only free to speak your mind if it's in the interest of the state. What if someone didn't want to be a part of the communist ideal? What if the top earners decided they'd rather spend their own money as they see fit? What if they exercised their God-given right to self-determination? That would effectively defund any communist government. In other words, right or wrong, unless you have a universal ban on self-determination, communism simply doesn't work. Communists know that and they don't care. The noble utopian ideal trumps any reason, empirical evidence, or desire for self-determination. After all, what kind of hideous monster wouldn't want everyone to have their needs met? The system of communism effectively reduces the creators of wealth to slaves who serve the masses. Over 100 million people were murdered or starved to death in the name of the ideal of communism. Nazis were tame compared to the communists. Now, Democrats, progressives, liberals, democratic socialists, whatever the communists are calling themselves these days, abide strictly to the communist ideal. Free maternity care, free health care, free education, free housing, free food. They want to deny the free speech rights of any dissenters. Have you ever wondered why leftists revere Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his New Deal social welfare policies may as well have come right from the 1936 Constitution of the USSR.
In our day, certain economic truths have become accepted as self-evident. A second Bill of Rights, under which a new basis of security and prosperity can be established for all, regardless of station or race or creed. Among these are the right to a useful and remunerative job, the right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation, the right of every family to a decent home, the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, the right to a good education. All of these rights spell security. And after this war is won, we must be prepared to move forward in the implementation of these rights to new goals of human happiness and well-being.